Ever look at those financial news headlines and just wonder, okay, what does this really mean for the company? How do you cut through it all?
Hmm.
Today, we're going to try and do just that. We're taking a deep dive into Mila Resources Place, and they've got this recent fundraise that's quite interesting.
That's right. Our mission today is really to unpack the details. We're talking about a conditional placing around 756,000 pounds. We want to look at how they plan to use that money, to speed up exploration and hopefully unlock some value.
And there's that detail about a director putting his own money in, too, which is always worth a look.
Absolutely. This isn't just about the numbers on a page. It's about understanding the practical side of things, the why behind the what, you could say, looking at the mechanics, the strategy, and what it signals for Mila down in Queensland.
Okay, let's get into it then. So, the headline news. Mila Resources, they've conditionally raised about 756,000 pounds. And they did this through a placing. So, selling shares, over 108 million of them, at 0.7 pence per share. Now, for anyone maybe less familiar, a placing means selling shares directly to specific investors, not the general public.
Right. Often institutions or, sophisticated investors.
But that word conditional is doing a lot of work here, isn't it? It's all hanging on shareholder resolutions. There's a general meeting set for July 7th, 2025.
Exactly. And why it's conditional is, it's quite fascinating, actually. It boils down to the UK's Companies Act 2006.
Ah, the legal stuff.
Yeah, you can't, or rather, you're generally prohibited from issuing shares for less than their nominal value. For Mila's existing shares, that nominal value is 1 pence, but they're placing these new shares at 0.7 pence.
Below the threshold, so how do they get around that?
Well, this is the clever part, or maybe the necessary part. They're proposing a share subdivision. Each existing 1p share gets split.
Split into what?
Into one new ordinary share with a nominal value of 0.1 pence, and one deferred share with a nominal value of 0.9 pence. So 0.1 plus 0.9 equals the original 1p.
Okay, makes sense mathematically. But what's a deferred share?
Well, crucially, these deferred shares are designed to be essentially worthless. I mean, they won't carry voting rights, they won't get dividends, no significant return of capital if the company winds up.
Right.
And the company can even buy them back for basically nothing, like a penny for the whole lot. So they're almost like goat shares, created just to satisfy the legal requirement so they can issue the new 0.1p shares at the 0.7p placing price.
So getting shareholders to approve this subdivision at the meeting, that's the absolute key hurdle for the whole 756,000 pound fundraise.
Precisely. It's a technical maneuver, but absolutely essential. You don't see it every single day.
Okay, so that's the financial engineering side, really important. But let's talk impact. Assuming they get the green light, they jump through these hoops. What happens then? What are they actually doing with this money?
Right, the practical application. The funds are specifically tagged to accelerate exploration work at their Yarrow project. This follows some successful data validation they've already done.
Accelerate how? What does that look like?
We're talking extending ground magnetic surveys. That's like using technology to see geological structures underground. Then, a really detailed structural review based on that data. And finally, targeted diamond drilling.
So not just random drilling, but very focused.
Exactly. Based on the science. It's all about building up their geological model, trying to pinpoint the most promising zones for mineralization.
And is it just Yarrow getting the attention?
No, Yarrow's the immediate focus for acceleration, but the funds also help support work to define drill targets at their other properties, Monal and Met Stedman.
Okay.
But there's another strategic piece here, which I think is quite significant for long-term value. They plan to develop their own local subsidiary and geological team in Queensland.
Bring it in-house.
Yes, and that's a big deal. It means reducing reliance on external contractors, which should cut costs. It streamlines operations, gives them more direct control, more flexibility. It's about building efficiency right into their exploration engine. That's key to unlocking value, cost effectively.
Yeah, that makes sense. Control and efficiency. And this seems to really echo what the executive director, Mark Stevenson, has been saying. I saw a quote where he said, this fundraise lets them fast-track exploration during H2 2025. Yeah. And also begin exploration across the entire package of licenses over a strike of 20 kilometers. So the ambition is clearly to ramp up activity and prove up the resource potential quickly, demonstrate the value, as he put it.
And speaking of conviction, Mark Stevenson isn't just directing the strategy, is he? He's putting his own cash in.
Right. That's the other layer here. He's personally subscribing for £20,000 worth of these shares. That works out to just over 2.8 million shares at the same 0.7 pence price.
And this is important. His personal investment is also conditional on those same shareholder resolutions passing.
So his money only goes in if the whole subdivision plan is approved.
Exactly. It's not separate.
Wow.
He's tying his personal investment directly to the success of the corporate finance structure needed for the main fundraise. He's increasing his holdings significantly, from around 17.2 million shares to over 20 million.
What does that signal, really, when a director does that, especially with these conditional strings attached?
Well, actions often speak louder than words. When an executive puts a meaningful amount of their own money on the line like this, conditional on the very mechanism the company needs, it generally signals strong personal belief. Belief in the strategy, belief in the assets, and maybe implicitly belief that shareholders will approve the necessary resolutions. It's alignment.
Skin in the game, as they say.
Definitely. More than just skin in the game, it's cash on the table, contingent on the plan working out.
So wrapping this up then, for you, the listener, trying to understand Mila Resources right now,
Yeah.
what we have is a strategic fundraise. It's aimed squarely at accelerating exploration to prove up assets in Queensland.
Yep.
But it hinges on this slightly complex but necessary share subdivision to make the fundraising mechanics work legally.
Correct. That's the technical linchpin.
And perhaps adding a layer of confidence, or at least commitment, is the fact that an executive director is personally investing a chunk of money, subject to the exact same conditions.
Absolutely. It pulls all the threads together, which leads to, I guess, a final thought for you to consider.
Go on.
What does that director's personal conditional investment really tell you about their conviction? Not just in the geology, but in the likelihood of navigating these corporate actions successfully, pondering that connection between personal stakes and corporate hurdles. Well, it gives you a much richer picture than just reading the headline number, something to think about.